Hello and welcome to Quays News. I'm Sophie Sinnott.
And I'm Amy McGregor. Here's what's coming up on the programme today.
The COVID inquiry comes to Manchester to hear residents' perspective on the pandemic. We hear from one of the inquiry's officials.
We want to hear how people right across the city region experience the pandemic and for them to share their stories with us.
The mental health charity Mind is celebrating its annual Time to Talk Day in Salford. The charity is this year partnered with Manchester's Metrolink in order to get people talking.
And we speak to budding comedians trying to make their way in the industry, in spite of the University of Salford's decision to scrap its comedy course.
Just my jokes were obviously terrible at the time, but also they weren't really jokes, and it was in front of a crowd who didn't want to watch comedy.
The UK COVID-19 inquiry has arrived in Manchester to invite people to share their experiences of the pandemic. Oliver Sykes reports.
Today and tomorrow, the COVID-19 public inquiry is here in Manchester, wanting to get a range of different views from the people in the region. I spoke to Kate Eisenstein, who is the Deputy Secretary of the COVID-19 Public Inquiry.
We're here in Manchester today as part of a listening exercise that we call Every Story Matters. We've already been across the country from Inverness to Wrexham to Exeter, and today and tomorrow we're here in Manchester because we want to hear how people right across the city region experience the pandemic and for them to share their stories with us. We're here in the town hall until 5:30 today and tomorrow, and if you can't make it down in person, you can still log on online at any time to the Every Story Matters website.
I asked Kate what is done with the information once submitted to the inquiry.
We look at all the stories we receive very carefully. We look for any themes, any common experiences, but also any differences. Did different communities or different geographical regions experience the pandemic in their own unique ways? They're all brought together in a series of publications that we call an Every Story Matters record. We've already published 2 of those, one looking at people's experiences of the healthcare system across the UK, and one looking at people's experiences of vaccines and medicines to treat COVID. And we've got a whole series of more publications still to come over this year. Those publications, those records, are then used by the chair of the inquiry, Baroness Heather Hallett, as hard evidence, alongside things like our public hearings where we hear from members of parliament or ministers, and she uses that evidence to make her findings about what happened during the pandemic and, crucially, her recommendations to help the UK be better prepared for the next pandemic, because there will be another pandemic. We just don't know when.
Oliver Sykes, Quays News, Manchester Town Hall.
Salford MP Rebecca Long-Bailey has had the whip restored by Sir Keir Starmer. Long-Bailey and others were suspended from the party in July 2024 for voting against the government on the 2-child benefit cap. This now means that Long-Bailey no longer sits as an independent MP and is back in the Parliamentary Labour Party. 3 other MPs have been reinstated in the party and will now be expected to toe the party line.
The mental health charity Mind is hosting its annual Time to Talk Day in Salford today. The charity organised 2 events, one at Capitol Quay and another at the Media City tram stop, with the aim of sparking conversations about mental health and bringing awareness to emotional health and wellness. Our reporter, Tom Turner, went down to find out more.
The mental health charity Mind is celebrating its annual Time to Talk Day across the UK today. Throughout the country, different branches of the charity will be setting up shop in places just like this with the aim to get people talking about mental health. This year, Salford Mind is partnering with Greater Manchester Metrolink, aiming to target commuters to gain a wider reach. The charity claim the day's aim is to start a conversation around mental health. Emily Norman is the Strategic Communications Lead at Salford Mind.
It's Time to Talk Day, which is a national campaign run by Mind and Rethink Mental Illness in partnership with the Co-op. So, as I said, it's national, so a lot of other local minds across the UK are doing something similar to us. So having individual campaigns to just try and get people to feel comfortable having mental health conversations. So the theme is actually get comfortable talking about mental health.
Emily explained how important it is to begin a dialogue around mental health.
If we look at the most recent research from Mind's Big Health report, levels of loneliness are increasing in adults. There's a real problem with young people's mental health, and a lot earlier kind of diagnoses are being recognised for young people. And we obviously know, unfortunately, the suicide rates are really high in middle-aged men. So if we can encourage talking at a really young age and normalise kind of those mental health conversations, which can be tricky, we can help people navigate those tricky emotions and signpost them to necessary support as well.
This year, Salford's branch of the charity has partnered with Greater Manchester Metrolink in an effort to better target the community.
With us being a local Mind, we offer services that reflect our community needs. So doing this with Metrolink means that we can get people on the platforms in day-to-day situations and let them know that we're there for them.
Tom Turner, Salford, Quays News.
Manchester has been rated the 5th most dangerous city in the country by number of crimes committed, with over 329,000 being reported to the Greater Manchester Police last year. Oldham ranked the worst out of Greater Manchester's boroughs, with 115 crimes per 1,000 people, making it the 32nd most dangerous in the country, and Salford sits at number 37. We went out and about in the centre of Manchester to see what people thought about this.
I think pretty safe. I've lived there like nearly 5 years now and I've never had any issues. There's just obviously like quite a few, like a big homeless population, and a lot of the times they are friendly and just want to chat, but sometimes it's just seems a bit aggressive.
I feel like people here don't really care about you, like they're just doing their own thing.
I mean, I've never been in a dangerous situation. I've been in situations where I've been homeless people just kind of walking over, or like I sort of hear something going on, a commotion, and I like walk the other way very quickly.
I tend to not put my headphones in at night, or put one in, or like travel with groups or with friends, so you're not always alone at night.
If I have a bag or something, I grab it like.
If you're here, I'd say be friendly and maybe you get more friendliness back.
Today marks the 67th anniversary of the Munich air disaster, which Manchester United are honouring this afternoon at Old Trafford. Supporters have gathered at the stadium to remember the Busby Babes, and our reporter Faz joins us from Old Trafford.
Today I'm at Old Trafford, where Manchester United have commemorated the 67th anniversary of the Munich air disaster. Supporters have gathered today where it was quite a sombre mood, with many crowding around the barriers that they have put around the wreaths. We had a procession of Sir Alex Ferguson and their teams of Manchester United, along with Ruben Amorim, the manager of the men's senior team, and Bruno Fernandes, who was also here. It started off with the club's chaplain, who led the commemoration, and then led on to the sports historian Roy Kavanagh, who shared his memories of the Busby Babes. The under-13s then said a poem, and then a wreath was laid by the managers Ruben Amorim and Mark Skinner, along with the captains of each the senior men's and women's team, Bruno Fernandes and Maya Leticia.
Thank you, Faz. Now here's Alice with the latest in sport.
Let's start with the football. And a packed FA Cup weekend commences with Manchester United versus Leicester on Friday. The match will mark club legend Ruud van Nistelrooy's return to Old Trafford in the opposition dugout. The Leicester boss is facing increasing pressure after losing 8 out of his previous 9 Premier League matches. The club have gone from 16th to 18th since he landed the job and are 2 points from safety in the Premier League. Manchester City also returns FA Cup action on Saturday as they travel south to the capital for a David and Goliath tie against League One side Leyton Orient. This follows their shocking 5-1 defeat to Mikel Arteta's Arsenal, and Pep Guardiola will hope his side can gain confidence before they face Real Madrid in the knockout round playoffs next week. In League 2, Salford boss Carl Robinson has called for more support at the Peninsula Stadium, suggesting Manchester United fans boycott Friday's FA Cup tie to back Salford instead. Salford City face a struggling Tranmere Rovers at the Peninsula Stadium after an exciting match against Bromley on Tuesday, where they came back from 3 goals down to draw. The Ammies kick off at 3 p.m. on Saturday and aim to climb back into the playoff positions. Moving on to Rugby League, Salford Red Devils head coach Paul Rowley has opened up about the club's pre-season issues, worrying that he would lose some of his top players after being told to cut £800,000 from their spending. However, the club believes that a takeover agreement could be completed ahead of their Challenge Cup tie against the Midlands Hurricanes on Sunday.
Thank you, Alice. Although Salford University has made the decision to drop its comedy course, a comedy night is being hosted in its place, in hopes of shining the spotlight on the aspiring comedians of Salford. Our reporter Kat went for a visit to find out more.
Natural selection. In modern terms, we call that a night out in Manchester.
I'm outside the New Adelphi Theatre for Comedy Night, where I got the chance to interview two aspiring comedians about how they started, what comedy means to them, and their experiences so far.
Childhood trauma. That was a really big one for me. I thought, oh, I've got a lot of depression from stuff. Let's make a joke out of it instead of doing other stuff with it.
Unlike George, who turns his trauma into comedy, Chris is all about music, improv and faith.
Picked up a guitar when I was serving as a missionary in South Africa. I started writing my own songs, started making parodies to different songs, and I would make my friends around me laugh. And I thought, this feels quite nice. I will continue to do that.
They both had to start from somewhere, and their first gigs weren't as successful, but they're learning from their mistakes and improving.
My first gig was absolutely abysmal. I didn't have any script for it. I thought I'd waffle. Just my jokes were obviously terrible at the time, but also they weren't really jokes, and it was in front of a crowd who didn't want to watch comedy. So it was like 10 minutes of silence.
But it was a great experience, and I even had my guitar up with me, and I had babbled too long that I got booed off stage before I could even play anything.
Their styles are very different, and their unique joke delivery is what hooks the audience and what makes them stand out from the rest.
It tends to be self-deprecating. I like to be quite vulnerable. I think that's what also makes it humorous, is that I'm mainly the target and not someone else.
To be honest, if there was a bingo card of learning difficulties, all I'd need is autism and I'd be going bingo. And I am trying to win the bingo cards. I think I'm quite autistic, to be honest.
It's weird. I found confidence performing on stage, but I couldn't do it in person. I couldn't do a social interaction. So yeah, it's actually helped me a lot with that.
I seem to do better when I improvise and just exercise a bit of faith rather than trying to script exactly what I'm going to say. That's when I start fumbling.
George and Chris are just getting started, but their passion for making people laugh is already taking them places. Kat Foley, Quays News.
This has been your 4 o'clock programme on Quays News. You can find more on social media, just search for Quays News. Thank you for joining us this afternoon. Goodbye.
Goodbye.